Good morning. I'm looking ahead at a brand new week with you as we study Heal or Healthy Eating, Abundant Living, Lesson 2. And right now I just want to kind of do a preview of the personal study portion of the lesson. I love this week's lesson because it reminds us of some important truths. Number one, that this is not a diet. If you have not ever been a part of Thin Within, or if you've struggled with going back and forth, it is really important for you to allow your mind to make a shift, that you're going from perhaps a diet or a dieting mentality to inviting God to change you in a whole entirely new way, where your focus is on Him in a way that no Christian diet really could have been, because we were always focusing on our bodies. Thin Within teaches us to use the natural signals in our body so that it doesn't become such a huge focus. And it takes time, but it is possible. You may need to renew your mind about counting calories and how important it is to count calories or fat grams, because we simply don't count anything or weigh or measure or anything. And so that's a radical shift. This week we kind of look at some of the mechanics of what the program is consisting of, not just the spiritual components or emotional components, but the actual physical components of it. Allie and Judy say in the book that diets give food the upper hand in an attempt to fix our appearance and not our heart. And really, I think that bit of wisdom comes found in Colossians chapter 2, 20 to 23. Since you died with Christ to the basic principles of this world, why, as though you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These are all destined to perish with use, because they are based on human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom, with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. You see, we don't want to go along with the world's way of doing things. If we have a challenge with our weight, our eating, the world's ways is to grab control and to count and measure and weigh. God's way might be different. And in fact, judging from that passage, Colossians 2, verses 20 to 23, it is. We're supposed to set aside the world's ways of doing things. Has being obsessed, we're asked in the book, has being obsessed even just a bit with food or your body or weight perhaps hindered your growth to be all that God intends? What self-destructive lies have you believed? And here's a question. What truths? We've been learning how to renew our minds and to trade the lie out for the truth of God. So what truths can you use to counter the beliefs that you've had, the beliefs that you see and recognize as lies right now? When they appear, you want to replace those lies with truth. Perhaps you need to renew your mind, actually take time, intentional time, with a list of the lies that you've believed and say, Lord, this is a lie I've believed. This is a truth I'm choosing to cling to instead now. And do that with each of the lies that you can recognize proactively several times a day, at least once a day. That we are challenged in this chapter also to befriend our body. Now that's a real challenge for some of us. How does that idea make you feel? Can you befriend your physical body? We try to befriend our body with God's help. And the enemy can't accomplish his goals in our lives when we are focusing on exalting God and befriending our body. See, the enemy is at work, prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And ladies, we have been fodder for him for far too long through this challenge of our weight and eating. On page 33 of the book, the authors discuss eating God's way. And I want you to have a real good look at that. And for about a month longer, it's only 5 more weeks, I ask you to buy into it. It may sprain your brain if you're fresh out of dieting, but I want you to try this. Just give it a shot and really do this thing. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to it in order to accomplish this. You have been fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And He has made your body to have signals for when you need food and when you no longer need food. And so we end up shutting them down. With diets, we are told we can have so many calories, so many points, so many fat grams or blocks or whatever, and or a little package of food when you want it. And so we don't really listen to when our body is hungry or when it's no longer hungry anymore. So I want you to just buy into this for a while and realize too that any food can be enjoyed this way. I lost weight without a whole lot of changes in my preferred foods, and I prefer all kind, like French fries and pizza and dessert foods. I lost the 100 pounds that way. I really did. I don't like vegetables at all except in salsa. And that I lost weight without having my servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Honest to goodness. It doesn't mean I recommend that. 1 Corinthians 6:12. All foods are permissible. Not all foods are beneficial. And you can grow in that. But right now, let's experience the freedom that God has purchased for us through Christ. When He declared all foods clean, when He told Peter, I have declared these foods clean. Why do you declare some of them unclean? On page 34, we are asked about foods that you may have banned or considered on the bad list, kind of like Peter had a bad list. And have you ever binged on your bad list foods? It's partly perhaps because you called them bad. And when you're feeling kind of disgruntled or rebellious, you're more likely to go to that bad food list and eat from that bad food list. So I want to challenge you, let's get rid of a bad food list. Let's instead turn to the Lord and invite Him to show us how to eat any food. Any food is permissible between the parameters of physical hunger and physical satisfaction. The hunger scale that you will find in the Heal book includes -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. 0 is still empty. But many people that Ali Smith and Judy Halliday have interacted with go beyond hunger. They have anorexic behavior. And so that is why that scale is a little different than you may have seen within. The truth is 0 is just physical hunger. When you are physically hungry, don't wait. Eat, unless God leads you to wait for some reason, but make sure it's God. And then 5 is comfortable, not stuffed, because 10 would be stuffed. You know, that feeling of Thanksgiving dinner, I've got to open my belt on my pants type thing. Now, 0 is not a growling stomach for everybody. It's kind of interesting to me that on page 40 that's been added, because in the Thin Within book, which Judy Halliday wrote, it is specifically mentioned that it's not a growling stomach. So I want to urge you, with caution, consider that. And in 1 Corinthians 6:12, just remember that all foods are permissible. Everything is permissible. Not everything is beneficial. Paul then says again, all things are permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything. And in Thin Within, that represents 3 phases. The first one being the freedom phase, and that is where we are right now. We want to enjoy that freedom. So your homework for this week is to complete all of Lesson 2, the personal study and the group study. Write out your responses to the questions on page 45 under Sharing and Discussion Questions. Create personal Heal goals for each level of the Heal pyramid on page 36. And then optional assignment is to consider memorizing the verse on page 42. And then another optional assignment is add to your God list. At least one time add to your God list. To me, I like to add to it every day, and I like to have a praise fest every day. It can take me 5 minutes to do both of those things, and it's great to do when I'm being tempted and want to give in to desire eating. Anyway, prayers for you as you continue through the material this week. I hope that you're being encouraged.